Frozen 2 is taking it to the next level. Now that Elsa is the undisputed Ice Queen, she'll be waltzing into theaters this November with a new level of swagger and maybe even some new powers. This is our guide to all the new and improved elemental sorcery of Frozen 2. Welcome back to The Binger. In the long history of Disney movies, magic has been for the villains. Whether it's Queen Grimhild, Jafar, or Ursula, it's the bad guys, although they're mostly girls, who are endowed supernatural powers.
Mummy dust, to make me old, to shroud my clothes, the black of night.
The same is true for pop culture at large, where heroes tend to rely on their determination and gusto, a general strength of character that is the polar opposite of the villain's magical shortcutting.
You know what I see? I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady.
They usually respond to some evil act of instigation by the villain, and their purpose is to uphold the non-magical status quo. Frozen changed all of this. In Frozen, Elsa's magical powers descend to Arendelle into a frost and serve as the inciting villainous incident that kicks off the film.
Sorcery. I knew there was something dubious going on here.
But she's also the main character, and it's with her that we're meant to sympathize.
Elsa.
She's the hero and the villain at the same time. What makes Elsa's powers so interesting is the public response to them in Arendelle, led by the weaselly Duke of Wesselton, who shapes the narrative around her magical powers, branding her as a witch and exiling her. The reason he does this is that a queen with magical powers gets in the way of his goal of exploiting and expropriating what Disney calls, in their official description, Arendelle's tradable goods. In the end, Elsa shows the real villain's who's who and what's what, winning over the citizens of Arendelle. The real-life echoes of the history of witches and witch trials are made very clear. Disney made an interesting choice by flipping the script on this age-old narrative. Because the first Frozen turned Disney's and everyone else's classic formula on its head, the way forward for Frozen 2 is completely uncharted. For the story, but also for Elsa's powers. With the bad guys gone and the kingdom on her side and under her rule, the sky's the limit for Elsa's abilities. She has a totally blank slate, and you can bet that even if she doesn't add any new powers to what she's already got, the confidence she'll have gained through the support of her people and time spent practicing her craft will take her to the next level. The only limit is the imagination of Disney's writers. Where might they take it? The most prominent scene in all of this year's trailers for Frozen 2 is the one where Elsa battles against the ocean, making ice stepping stones and ramps that are eventually cracked by the massive waves. Her solo battle against the water might strike you as strange because if she can control ice and snow, then why wouldn't she be able to control water when it's wet? After the literal and metaphorical thawing at the end of Frozen 1, it's not crazy to suppose an internal block may also melt away inside of Elsa. In the trailer, she's stubborn and determined to beat the water at its own game, but it wins, crashing over top of her and sending her down into the depths. On her way back up, she meets a horse. Contrary to what some of the internet may have you believe, this is not an ice horse. Judging by the way it lives in the ocean and bursts into bubbles, this horse is made of water. Not to mention the moment when it rears its head at Olaf out of a little pond. The horse's most important appearance on the trailer is when Elsa wrangles it with a glowing blue lasso and hops on its back. In this shot, the horse confirms itself as 100% water. When it whips its head, its mane is not ice crystals, but water droplets. This is a liquid horse. Elsa riding the horse is more than just breaking in a wild stallion. She's opening the door onto at least the other half of her powers, the water side. There's another conspicuous example of Elsa's newfound water power. The moment which appears in both trailers is when Elsa and the crew reach a wall of fog which marks the edge of the enchanted forest. This isn't any normal fog, but rather a magical one that was brought down upon the forest after an unspecified bad event happened there years before. It's supposed to be impenetrable, but thanks to Elsa's ability to control water, she parts it with ease, and they all walk through. When the fog parts, we get a glimpse of some obelisks that have been hidden for a long time. On each one is a diamond-shaped rune representing a different element: water, earth, wind, and fire. It's too bad they have to stick with the name Frozen for the new installment of the series. If the trailers are anything to go by, this movie will be about far more than just ice. So let's get them down. First, there's fire, but this isn't normal fire that you can read beside as it crackles in your fireplace.
Olaf, get away from there!
It's not the orange, red, and yellow that we're all used to either. This fire is an electric purple, and it moves around with a mind of its own, jumping from tree to tree, at one point chasing down a terrified Olaf. Instead of having its own agenda, the fire could be an element under the control of someone else's mind. Next is wind. The wind in Frozen 2, similar to its hot purple cousin, isn't just normal wind, the kind that blows your sheets off the line or your hat off your head. This is full-on Mary Poppins wind, the kind that sweeps nannies off their feet and turns umbrellas inside out. It's not a force of nature, but a force that a certain specially endowed person could control. In the new footage for Frozen 2, it takes many shapes. A tornado that flies straight for Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, and Sven, an unusual gust that whips through Arendelle, opening and closing windows and doors, and the force that pushes fog over the enchanted forest. You don't have to know your periodic table to guess the next element on the list. Earth, or rock, is embodied by a group of giants who are made of, you guessed it, stone. Although the jury's out on whether it's granite, limestone, or any other type of rock, what is certain is that these things are very big and very grouchy to have been woken up. The first time they appear in Frozen 2's new trailer, Anna and Olaf are paddling by in their ice canoe trying not to wake the literal sleeping giants. It seems that they didn't succeed, as later on the giants appear again, looking like pissed-off versions of the monsters from Shadow of the Colossus. They lob boulders at Anna and Kristoff as they escape on Sven, who must be wondering why he ever started hanging out with humans. The monsters could have a mind of their own, and we mean no disrespect to them by implying a lack of agency, but they look an awful lot like Marshmallow from Frozen 1, a creation of Elsa's snowbending. See where this is going? The final member in Frozen 2's holy quaternity of elements is that thing you never drink enough of. As well as making up 60% of your body, water is everywhere around you in all sorts of different forms. There are big bodies of water like the ocean, there are the clouds in the sky, and the dew on leaves in the morning. Even the water vapor in the air we breathe. As we explained earlier, Elsa is going to be able to control all of this, which begs the question, will she be able to control the other elements too? There's a possibility that Elsa will be able to use some of the other elements. But a more interesting situation would be if there were others like Elsa, each in control of a different element balancing the magical world. Who could these people be? Two names come to mind right off the bat, Anna and Iduna, Elsa's sister and mom. Everyone's been hoping Anna would get her own power since Frozen 1 came out. Based on some foreshadowing in the trailer, it looks like Disney have given the people what they want. A moment from the trailer, Elsa is surrounded by purple flames and is shooting ice at them when Anna yells, "Elsa, get out of there!" After the flames are put out, Elsa responds saying, "You can't keep following me into fire." Anna's response to this is telling. Clearly angry, she says,
"Then don't run into fire!"
This is practical advice, but also a not-so-subtle warning and hint. Coming from the angry red-haired Anna, don't run into fire may mean don't mess with me because I have the power to control flames. As for Iduna, she will likely have the power to control the wind. The newest trailer begins with Agnar, husband of Iduna and father of Elsa and Anna, telling the story of a trip to the enchanted forest when he was young. Although the story is cut short before we see too much of what went down back in the day, we do catch a glimpse of the origins of the wind power. There are a few shots of a young woman playing in gusts of wind, laughing and bouncing around through the air, which she seems to be controlling. She looks an awful lot like Iduna, with the same auburn hair. Plus, she sends flirtatious gusts of wind to what looks like a young Agnar. Aside from being gifted with wind power, the young Iduna of Frozen 2 seems to be a Northuldran, who escapes to the south with her royal lover after something went wrong. If this is the case, which it seems to be, then the characters we've been introduced to in the new trailer, Yelena, Ryder, and Honeymaren, could be relatives of Elsa and Anna. If Elsa's powers in the first Frozen served as a convenient way to mirror the ice melting between the two sisters as they let themselves love and be loved, the second will be a headfirst dive into Elsa powers. The ways Elsa used her abilities were haphazard and accidental at first. In Frozen 2, after opening herself up to love and having 5 years between installments to practice ice and water magic, her powers will be much sharper and more focused. But she will still be going on a very intense emotional journey into the origins of her powers and thus, her family and her kingdom. She may become so powerful that an opposing force may need to step in and check the development of her ice slinging. Who will that be? Our bet's on Anna. What do you think? Will Anna learn magic? Will Elsa be in over her head? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to The Binger. We've got more Frozen 2 videos on the way.